What is up, Wolfpack Nation? We are back again this week with the Tuffy Talk live show. We got myself, Michael, and Greg here to talk some NC State athletics. How are y'all doing this week?
Can't complain. Yeah. Just here. It's weird not having a weekend of NC State sports.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be the big topic of this show, just reviewing the highs and lows of this past academic year for NC State athletics. But before we get going on that, everyone be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this with all your friends because it really helps support the channel and it's a great community. And so before we get started on talking about the highs and lows of each and every sport, we do have some news to talk about because earlier today, the women's soccer schedule for 2025 dropped. And we have some pretty good home games, mainly Florida State, Wake Forest, and Duke. Those are going to be the big three this year for women's soccer under obviously first-year head coach in Gary Higgins. And so we'll see if we can make some noise in the ACC. Obviously, a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, on the men's side, they brought in that new coach and they took off in year one. So hopefully we see the same on the women's side.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in the ACC, because the ACC, in my opinion, in both men's and women's soccer is the best conference. Wake, Duke, and Carolina are all really good programs on both sides. Clemson is really good on both sides. Florida State, on the women, they won the national championship a few years ago, and we're in it a couple years ago as well, I believe. I'll have to double check on that. Notre Dame can make some noise, and Virginia is really good on the women's side as well. And then Syracuse on the men, they won the national championship 3 years ago now. So,
and I feel like, I don't know a lot about their teams, but I feel like Cal and Stanford and SMU always have strong, non-revenue sports as well. So,
SMU's really good at soccer.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of the big one. Stanford's sort of at a high and low point. Cal is a decent program, but they're not nearly as good as like a Stanford or SMU in that category. But yeah, which sport do y'all want to talk about first?
We can start and
probably just go through them in the seasons.
Yeah, season order.
So we can probably do the fall sports first. So obviously, probably the big one we want to start off with is football.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
think
to start with, but
I think a lot of lows.
Yeah.
Considering the expectations we had for this past season.
Yeah, it's crazy. Leighton and I were talking, and he was like talking CFP, and I'm like, were we really like at that point where we were that? I'll just use the word bullish on making the CFP, and I'm like, how, why, what? And then you start naming the names that you brought in, and you're like, oh, I guess sure. When you expand the playoff and you let more teams in, it gives you a better chance. And I thought, I guess we did, but I guess I'll throw this back to you guys. But minus the Grayson McCall thing, because no one could really see that coming, or maybe you could because of the history that was kind of there. Looking back, do you think we were foolish for thinking that? And two, if you don't, why don't you feel like we weren't crazy thinking that?
I think it was somewhat fair. I think it was to kind of get your hopes up for. I don't think anybody really confused us for an actual national title contender, but getting in like SMU did this year,
right? There was a path that you could have made a case for it, right?
Yeah,
especially with our schedule this year, because I mean, look at what our team's preseason. Wake, they weren't very good, but they looked like a team that we could have actually beaten. Syracuse looked to be in a rebuilding form. Duke looked to be in a sort of rebuilding phase under Manny Diaz's first year. Cal and Stanford looked to be, looking to struggle inside the ACC. Carolina looked to be rebuilding after a couple departures. Clemson, we beat them the previous year. And who was the other team? Georgia Tech. I mean,
we had Wake Forest in there too. Did you mention Wake Forest?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I was checking my note on something.
I feel like a lot of people thought the schedule would have painted a really good path to the ACC championship game.
Yeah, and then I think the other part too is if you somehow pulled an upset against Tennessee, you were really feeling good about yourself. Even though that didn't hamper your ability to make a CFP, it would have only enhanced it.
Right.
But for me, looking back, and again, it's easy to armchair quarterback this thing 11 months ago, 10 months ago, whatever we started kind of talking about it. There was a ton of unknowns, right? Like the offensive line for one. You had guys that were kind of first year guys in a sense where they redshirted, though they came from big name programs like the Noah Rogers and the Hollywood Smothers, and then but you thought you had something in Jordan Waters. Not Jordan, Jonathan. No, Jordan. It is Jordan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a guy that I work with. His name is Jonathan Waters. So I always want to use his name. So there was maybe some signs that we may have ignored. I don't know.
Yeah. I think the big concern for me coming into the season for the offense was that Grayson McCall had never had a receiving core that was that fast before.
Right.
And I think what we saw in the first couple of games that he kind of struggled with that, throwing the guys that were that fast.
Yeah, and I think losing Peyton Wilson on defense, obviously.
Yeah, that was the big one.
Bigger.
Yeah, I honestly think that was bigger than losing Grayson McCall. If you really want to, break it down in those terms.
Yeah, I mean, he was the leader on and off the field for the team and the defense, and that was tough. And then you lose Fordham. I know that was a couple games in, but that didn't help either. But
yeah, it just felt like we were always chasing. But I guess talk about the good of the season. I mean, you can't be all negative on the season because there was some goods. Some positives came out.
Right.
I think not to crap on somebody that's no longer there. We definitely made the right call in not keeping MJ Morris around. So that's one. Even with Grayson going down to injury, and you can even argue with his struggles that were on earlier before that for the injury. But then you knew that once you got CJ Bailey in there, that okay, like you potentially have a future now at quarterback.
Right. Which that's a big one. That's huge. No, just getting him reps last year. I mean, obviously that wasn't the preferred way that it would happen, but you expect him to be better this year than you probably would have expected him to be if he sat on the bench the whole season last year.
Right. So I think you take a 6-6 season knowing that you kind of maybe fingers crossed that you got that out of your system last year. Right. And you're not working through, that this year, because now you have, all those names that we just named a few minutes ago, they're a year into the system. Right. And that I feel like you would have potentially been working that out with, you would be working a new quarterback in with new guys, and you'd be kind of at the same place. So maybe in theory, I do think our offense is going to be really good this year.
Yeah. Yeah. It all kind of depends on how this year turns out.
Yeah.
To really determine how much you can take away from last year.
Right.
Like, okay, yeah, that was a step forward. Or it's like, oh no, that didn't really do anything for us. But
which is funny
that's
because
yet to be seen.
Yeah, because you thought that, okay, the offense was going to be really good because, again, you had, you brought in, Justin Jolie. We didn't even talk about him yet. Yeah. You had, the freshman turned out to be really good at wide receiver. And then the defense kind of let you down. We talked about it, where there was a couple of games there. If you get one stop, you win at least one, if not both. That goes from 6-6 to 8-4. That's
the weight game.
That's a big, yeah. Yeah.
We gave up like three. We gave up like 3 plays on 4th down in the weight game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Both,
and then
both against Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech too. There was 2 or 3 plays.
It was just like just a couple 4th down stops, not even like 3rd down. It was like we got them to 4th down and just couldn't make that final stop.
And ironically, like we're in cover 0 in all of those opportunities, and the quarterback burns you essentially.
Yeah. And the thing is, none of these losses were CJ Bailey's fault at all.
No, I don't think they were necessarily his fault, but he definitely made some plays. In the Georgia Tech game, I think he threw that interception. Or I don't know if it was an interception or fumble where they run back for a touchdown.
It was a pitch.
Yeah. So I think it technically goes down as a touchdown. You take those 7 points off the board, you win. But again, that's one play early in the game where you had time to recover. But again, he's a freshman. Yeah. Like you cannot put all of that on a true freshman's shoulders.
No.
And expect him to be the next coming of Phillip Rivers.
And I think with Bailey last year, the biggest thing with him was not turnovers, like throwing interceptions. I mean, he had some, but like you said, Carson, none that really killed you. I think with him, it was more the plays he didn't make, right? Because he did protect the ball pretty well, but sometimes almost to a detriment, and it was just kind of processing slower, not kind of reading the field as well in an effort to protect the ball. That's definitely something that's stressed, ball security. And so in that sense, I think he probably left more plays on the field that he could have made. But yeah, not like he was. Yeah, there wasn't a game where he went out and threw 5 interceptions. Like with his face.
I agree with you. Go ahead, Carson.
I think the big game that stands out where CJ definitely struggled with what you were saying, Michael, in the sort of inability to make plays was the Duke game, because I thought we drove down the field really well, but it's just once we got in that red zone and the field gets smaller, CJ doesn't have he doesn't have that much field to work with, and I think he struggled with that, especially against that physical Duke defense.
Yeah, and Duke's defense gets some of the credit for that, but and I think that's where also we saw your offensive coordinator's got to help out your QB in that situation, and there's kind of a reason that we have a new offensive coordinator too.
Yeah, I think the other part of that, the inability for CJ making a play, and that we were, it felt like for a while there we were stubborn in our play calling, where when you had a certain formation on the field, it was going to be a run play. It was fairly predictable. And to your point about the OC, I just think, you just add all those things up and it just makes it really tough for a freshman. And you brought up the Duke thing. Like Manny Diaz is a defensive guru kind of guy. And so he's going to feast on a freshman quarterback and give him looks and do things to confuse him. And, so with everything that we just said earlier, now you've had a year of that under your belt for CJ. And that when you face Duke again this year, you would hope that he'll be more prepared to go out and do things that he couldn't do last year for you, and just holding that ball. I mean, that's a thing that goes down as not an interception, but it's a negative play, and that's the one thing especially as a true freshman quarterback, you don't want to put your team in situations where you're having to go get 3rd and 12, 3rd and 13, whatever, 3rd and 9. It just makes it really difficult to sustain drives that way. So hopefully that's all out of his system, and we're going to come out and see a new CJ Bailey. Like from what I saw at spring ball, the practice that I was out there, like I felt like the offense did a pretty good job. But I don't know if that's because they're that much better or the defense just isn't that good.
That's always the question. It's
right?
Like if one's way better than the other, it's like, okay, well, is that because they're good, or should we be concerned about the other side?
What was your guys' highlight of the season for football? I mean, I think we can probably all agree it's going to be probably the Carolina win. I don't know if that's everybody's highlight or top moment of the year.
I think so. In that, in kind of a 6-6 year.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much going to be the Jerry.
Especially when you do it on their field, right?
Yeah.
I think that gives you a little bit more.
Retiring Mac Brown.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Finally putting the nail in the coffin, not the real coffin, but he's probably not far away from that. But sorry. I think that's the only thing you can really hang your hat on as a fan of football this year.
One game, yeah. I mean, you didn't really have. I mean, your other two ACC wins were Cal and Stanford. And,
now the Cal game was nice. I mean, you had a nice comeback in that game.
Yeah, that was an exciting game. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, they missed that field goal, so that definitely helped. But but you saw some things maybe to come with CJ Bailey in that game where he kind of made some exciting plays.
I think that was kind of a Hollywood breakout game too.
Yeah,
he scored,
for sure.
The winning touchdown on that one.
Yeah, I mean, how good was Hollywood? From basically that point on.
Yeah,
I think that was like you're saying. Yeah, it's a good point. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so again, he showed some flashes. Like again, you saw some flashes from this team where you're like, okay, the future's got some potential, but can you build upon it and build around them? And again, I think the offense is going to be the bell cow, but this is still a Dave Doran team. Is he gonna open the floodgates and let him roll, or is he still going to be conservative and still put it on the defense? I don't know if a coach in year 13 is going to be willing to let that happen.
Yeah, I think he's gonna have to. I mean, it's just like you gotta. I mean, we'll see. The defense, this new scheme, new defense coordinator could come out and
surprise us all.
Yeah, right. But which would be great. But I think, looking at it now, I think you have to project that you're going to be a more offensive focused team.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see some shootouts. I think this team's going to have to win. We always joked when you say, give me 30 and I feel good about the defense's chances. I don't know if you tell me, give me 30 and I still feel good about us winning. I feel like you're going to win more than you lose, but to the point of like you never really lost if you scored 30.
Yeah. I think that was a real thing. I remember hearing, quotes from players and maybe Doran himself. I think the number they always like, at least the past couple of years with the Tony Gibson defense that kind of we came to know, I think it was 31. Like that was kind of always their goal. And if you look back at the schedule, like the last couple of years, it's like if we had scored 31 in every single game, we would have lost like one or two games every single season. So it's like there is kind of, I get the idea, but it's also like
that's still a lot of points.
Arbitrary number on it. Yeah. That's still like
Yeah, that's like you
we're
say, well,
gonna get
if we score 50, we're gonna win every time. Yeah, no kidding.
there.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're gonna. It's the beauty of numbers. You can always find a spot to base your argument off of.
Right.
I think we might see something very similar to the Jacoby Brissett teams, where we were very reliant on the offense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. It's crazy that we're gonna get started here really quickly. I mean, they're already doing their recruit camps. Those went down last week, and I know we signed a few, or we got a few kids to commit. We didn't sign them yet, but I think was it
2026 class?
Yeah. I think there was one. I think it was one of each. I think it was one offense, one defense. I think it was like a linebacker. And was it a D? It was some kind of lineman. I can't remember. Was it a safety?
We've got a safety. There's we've got 2 safeties committed. I think there's a linebacker committed, offensive lineman.
Yeah. I know there was like a lineman.
But yeah, that's right. It's kind of this is the thick of it for recruiting for the 2026 class. You get all your official visits a lot in June. So yeah, that's exciting.
I guess apparently Doran looks like here in the chat that Doran had a press conference today. I didn't have a chance to see it. Anybody catch it?
He was on 99.9. Just a radio interview.
Okay, yeah. With was it with Gold or Conley? Just curious.
It was like 3:00 or 3:30. So I don't.
So I think that's Conley. Yeah, I think that's Conley.
But he asked who would have been the talk of the fan base of the Brennan Spring game. On offense team, Duke Scott and Cody Hardy. And on defense team, Chaz Wallace.
Is Hardy the wide receiver?
No, he's the tight end. So kind of more the inline.
Oh, is that the kid from Elon?
Yes, the transfer from Elon. Yeah.
Yeah, he got hurt the practice I was at. Because it was he and Jolie both got injured in that practice. And then Gus Ritchie got he got some reps, and Ritchie made a few nice plays there. Duke Scott was just a beast. Like that guy's, that guy's legs are just insane.
Yeah, he's like built like a kind of short and stocky.
You know who he kind of reminds me of, and I don't know. Like I feel like this is a good comparison just for me because I'm a Bucks fan. He reminds me of Doug Martin a little bit. I don't know if you remember who Doug Martin was. The hamster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel what did Doug Martin go? Like Boise State or something? I'll have to look where he went to college.
College, yeah. I'm from the Bucks.
But he reminds me, like I next time if I see Duke Scott around, I want to see if he knows who that is. And but I thought he reminds me of Duke.
He went to Boise. Good call.
Yeah, Boise. Doug Martin. What's his size? I'm just curious. Do you have his size there?
He is 5'9", 223 pounds.
Does that sound like Duke Scott to you?
I think he's a little bit taller, isn't he? Duke Scott. I think he might be like 5'10", 5'11".
I don't know. I guess we can look that up. Anyway, we can move on.
It's very similar. Very similar size.
Just because where I'm kind of going with this is he's low center of gravity, which is like really good for a running back. Low man wins. And that he's kind of sneaky. He's got really good breakaway speed for a guy of his size. You'd be like, okay, no, that guy's not gonna. He's not a burner like Hollywood. But I think
different.
Yeah, they're definitely different guys. And maybe that's why you saw who left? Was it Kendrick?
Raphael,
yeah. So maybe that's why he left, because he kind of saw the reps kind of dwindling for him. Oh, we lost Carson. Oh, Amy didn't. Erie's back. Anyway, we can move on to a different sport, but I definitely am curious to see. There was just really, really good freshman wide receiver, and I have to go look at the roster, but he made some plays. But that's just such a crowded room. I just don't know if he's going to get a ton of looks, but he definitely made a few plays while I was there for that practice, and then I was told by some folks that had gone to the practice like the week before and they had mentioned his name, so he was one that I was watching, and he yeah, I was fairly impressed with him. But he's a true freshman, so I don't really see him getting a ton of opportunities this year. Let me see if I can get his name. But go ahead and move on to like volleyball or something.
Yeah, moving on to volleyball, I think lot of highs from this past season. We had players like probably one of the greatest NC State volleyball players of all time, in Amanda Rice, having her senior year, and I think that she just went out this year with a bang. Obviously, few highs for the season in the regular season, where beating Carolina at home and beating Duke at home back to back, that was obviously really good. But the big high, I think, came at the very end of the season when we beat SMU in the 5th set in Dallas. And I think that basically clinched our spot in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. Volleyball, definitely kind of taking some steps forward as a program.
Yeah, I feel like every year we were getting better.
Yeah, now it's a coaching change, but
But there's some continuity there.
It's the same coaching staff. It's just different head.
Yeah.
So I feel like it should still be going in the same kind of direction, because it's same management. It's just a different head at this point.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of what you hope with that. Bring on.
Who do we end up playing? Like Florida or Kansas?
It was Florida.
Yeah.
Florida's a good volleyball program. Yeah. And then next year we got, a couple of good returning players, Courtney Bryant, and for Courtney Bryant is coming back. That's a big player. And Sydney Daniels, she can make some big plays.
Yeah, I know. I talked to Coach Megan at the ACC baseball tournament, and she's really excited about some European players that are coming. Anytime that you can add some European players, they love their volleyball over there. The one thing that we really haven't talked about, hopefully that this doesn't become a problem, is the student visa thing going on with the government. And obviously this channel doesn't talk about politics, but kind of when it does bleed into athletics, there's at least a reason to bring it up. But you hope none of these players that are trying to get over here, especially for the fall sports, are impacted with these potential, I don't know if restrictions are the right word, but just extra scrutiny on the process. So I know we're talking about recaps right now, but just thought I'd mention that because that's definitely something to keep an eye on as we work our way through the summer. But yeah, I didn't we beat Louisville too, or was that 2 years ago?
That was 2 years ago.
Okay, I don't have the schedule up, so I was just trying to remember anything else that was pretty impressive. I think the one thing you can say is that the sport is definitely growing. You're starting to see a lot more folks come out to the matches. I promised Coach Megan again that I would make it to one, and it's going to probably work out pretty well for me during the opening weekend of football. I think we have a match that Friday. I don't know if the official schedule's been released, but I do know we do have a match that Friday.
I think non-con has been released.
Okay.
The non-con's been released.
Gotcha.
But I think for non-con they usually start out like playing in tournaments at various areas. So like last year they played like 3 games at Creighton, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They do those little mini tournaments.
Yeah. So like I said, I do know there's a match that Friday, so I hope to be there for that. But I think you're starting to build a culture. I know the head coach changed, but the philosophy doesn't really change. Coach Megan's been there for a little while, so you'll have that continuity. But yeah, again, ACC is another tough conference with the additions of SMU, Stanford, and Cal. Those are some colleges that put in the resources for volleyball. In fact, I know like Stanford and I think Cal even have men's volleyball. That's how much that they care for volleyball.
Well, in also in California, all the Southern California schools, not necessarily like the central ones, but UCLA and USC, they play beach volleyball.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they sure do. In fact, the NCAA tournament was somewhere on the East Coast for it this year, I believe. But anyway, yeah. So volleyball, and then talking. I think Pitt's really good. Louisville's good. Georgia Tech's good. Yeah, I mean, so you have 7 to 9 quality teams in the ACC that you're going to probably play at least half of those in the regular season. So you better be ready to out the gate.
Yeah. All right, moving on to a sport that had a lot of good highs this past year, and that was men's soccer. First-year coach Mark Hubbard comes in and just puts this program in complete 180, making the NCAA tournament, making the Sweet 16, and you do lose to Marshall, but Marshall went all the way to the national championship game.
Yeah.
And probably another big win was beating SMU. I think we beat them like 5-0 in the regular season. So lots to love from this men's soccer program going forward.
Yeah. Well, and this is another program that has some foreign kids that we got to keep an eye. I know we just mentioned that with the volleyball, but I think for not like I definitely got to start paying a little bit more attention to it. I think it's definitely a program on the rise. But again, to your point, soccer is a really tough conference, or ACC is a really tough conference for it. And so when you look at these, like I think they had, let me try to pull it up. Do you have the record? I think we had 5 draws.
Yeah,
I feel like that number sound like I just looked at it a few weeks ago, and I feel like that was a number that was in my head for draws.
It sounds right.
Yeah, but so you didn't have a ton of wins. And look, we should have beat Carolina. We got screwed in that game or that match.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
it's kind of like baseball where
that Duke game we got screwed in.
Was it a Duke game, not the Carolina game?
The Duke game that was at home, we scored a goal to tie it, and they said it was offsides.
That's the one I'm thinking about then. Yeah.
Yeah.
For some reason, I was thinking it was Carolina, but I know you cover that a little bit more with your work with the technician, so I definitely will defer to you. But yeah, because we ended up losing that game, like 2-1?
Yeah, it was 2-1.
Yeah.
Yeah, we lost Carolina. I think Carolina was our first loss in Chapel Hill. That
was close though,
2-0.
wasn't it?
Yeah, it was close.
It was 2-0.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you look at the soccer schedule and you see some of the names on the schedule. You're like, well, why are we playing those people or that people? Well, those are actually pretty good teams in soccer.
Yeah. Like Charlotte's really good. We beat them in the tournament last year in overtime, and Charlotte's usually a really good program.
Right.
I mean, Vermont won the national championship.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next point. Yeah, so you're like, why are you playing those scrub teams, man? Like, they're really good at this sport. I think you were just getting ready to say, Michael, it's kind of like baseball. Is that what you were getting ready to say?
Yeah, where
they look at the names.
Yeah, and the where the ACC is really competitive, and it's conference. Even if you're 500 in conference, you're still can be a really good team at the end of the day.
Yeah. I know, Carson, you follow soccer probably the closest of the three. Did we bring anybody in from like the transfer portal? Either, did we bring people in? Did we lose people? Like, how are we looking for Coach Hubbard's sophomore season?
Well, I can't really talk about who we brought in just because college soccer is sort of different in that with regards to recruiting because of all the worldwide things that are going on. But I can look at the roster and see who's coming back from last year. Yeah,
because it's one of those sports where it's you really have to be involved in the sport to really get good information on it. It's not like D1 baseball that covers baseball really well, or the national media as a whole, like a 247 or an On3 that covers football and basketball both men and women. So you really have to dig. I was bored the other day, and I was looking at some swimming stuff. Like we have got some good swimmers coming in, but again, it's really hard to get information on these things and to really kind of quantify how good someone is or isn't, because they don't do the typical 3-star, 4-star, type thing. But the same with baseball.
Yeah, lots of departures due to graduation. Big standout though is that we do have Take Healy coming back, and he's pretty good. So
cool. I guess then we can, nothing crazy. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we talked about women's soccer earlier. First year head coach coming in.
Yeah.
Hopefully he can turn the program around. Last year was pretty rough. I mean, tough schedule. ACC was really good last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a program that's kind of been struggling a little bit. Obviously, when you make a coaching change, there's usually a reason for that, and it's usually the team's not met expectation. Look again. I State's got a proud tradition in both men and women's soccer. So there's no, there's a ton of soccer talent in the state of North Carolina. Just like with baseball, you don't even have to leave the state if you really don't want to. I think North Carolina, because I have my cousin, his kids like play soccer, and he bombards me with soccer information, which it is helpful when we talk about athletics. And like he just tells me like the state of North Carolina is like a top 5 state in the country for soccer talent. Baseball is probably, I would say baseball is easily top 10. So again, you don't have to go far to find good people, and you start picking the right ones, you can be successful fairly quickly.
Yeah, North Carolina is kind of what for soccer is pretty much what Florida is for football.
Yeah, that's a good club level teams.
Yeah. My he showed me their schedule, and I'm like, good grief, you got like the teams that they travel to are insane. I don't know how you do it, to be honest with you. I mean, I think they had like 3 or 4 trips up here to Northern Virginia, which is a good soccer bed. The state of Virginia is really good at soccer. So where I'm trying to go, but yeah, we'll see if they can get this thing turned around and fairly quickly, and we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think what's going to help is that I feel like the team this year is going to be very senior led as well. Looking at the roster.
Experience always at any sport. I mean, it always seems like most of the time teams at the end of the season that are winning the championships are the experienced ones. So
I mean, you could say that about our men's basketball team this year, but that's for another episode. But
I guess now we can move on to winter sports. So that's men's basketball, women's basketball, wrestling, and gymnastics are.
Real quick, we didn't compete as well as we probably would have liked to have in cross country, especially women. When you lose Caitlin Tui, you're probably going to take a little bit of a down, but they still had a good showing. I mean, I think we finished 5th at the ACCs and I think 8th in the country. I feel like that's the numbers I saw. So good, still good, a good program there. You got some younger runners. Men didn't do as well. But that's not really been our strong suit. But anyway, go ahead. Now we can just kind of jump over to fall.
Yeah. All right. Which one do y'all want to do first?
I don't know. I guess we can do the worst one first.
All right, men's basketball. I think.
How did you guess that was the worst?
It could be the best, depending on which way to look at it.
Well, I'm sure we'll talk about that.
I don't know. When you're defending ACC champions and you don't even make the tournament, that's kind of a standout.
But when you hire late,
hey, does any?
That was in the off season.
I mean, let's talk about this real quick because, and then we'll come back to the season as a whole. Do you guys follow Wolfpack Vinshu on Twitter?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he did the report card for all the sports, and I kind of gave him an assist on some data points, and I think he gave men's basketball an A.
Yeah.
and And I saw the funniest comment. It's like, we aced the final, but failed the other three,
Oh, I did see
quarters.
that.
I was like, that is the perfect analogy
Yeah.
for men's basketball last year. So, but anyway, we'll
In
get
the final was like 90% of your grade.
Yeah, right.
Like,
Yeah. And it wasn't even graded on a curve. I mean, it was,
Right.
we did that well, but yeah, you're right. Good point, Michael. Anyway, go ahead, Carson. I just thought that was funny.
Yeah. I think there are really two games that really stand out to me in men's basketball as a highlight. And that were the Pitt game and the Wake game towards the end of the season at home.
Yeah.
I think a good standout from that was just Paul McNeil's growth, and
Yeah.
happy to have him back this year. Adds depth to the team.
Yeah. The problem with those two highlights is I think 10,000 people total saw them
in person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That Wake game. Yeah. That was Paul McNeil game right there. And that was kind of who you expected it to see coming in, kind of highly recruited. So, yeah, hopefully he builds on that because he's the only, him and Jordan Snell, the only two returners.
Remember watching that game from the baseball park, Michael?
Yeah. We were at Jacksonville.
Yeah, we were like, wait, what? Wait, is that last year's game?
We should have gone to that one instead of the baseball game.
I know, the whole weekend, right? Because men won at Reynolds. I mean, not Reynolds, but men won at Lenovo, and then the women won the next day.
Oh, yeah, that was the Notre Dame women's game. Yeah,
yeah. We'll talk about
there watching.
Sure we'll talk about that. 0-3. And I had tickets for both of those games, and I could have been like womp womp. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, you're right. I think those were definitely the two highlights. But again, if those two are your highlights, you've had a bad season, right?
Yeah,
I think that's pretty obvious. Like, neither one of those teams made the tournament. In fact, you could probably say that we broke both of those teams'
chances of making the tournament.
Yeah,
definitely Wake.
Yeah, for sure Wake, because they just spiraled after that. They lost. They lost like 3 more.
Yeah. I just. Yeah, there's really I'm just trying to think of something, right? But there's nothing there.
No, this season was a blur to me for men's basketball.
Who do you give the MVP to on that team? Is it Styles?
I think Styles, yeah. He ended
up
like he was your most consistent player.
Yeah.
Yeah,
especially about the halfway through, like especially from like that Clemson game on, I felt like he was probably the most reliable. But
I don't know. It's like it feels like that was so long ago, just because.
Well, I think we've purposely blocked it out of our memory bank, right? Like there's just really nothing to remember that you'll be like, oh yeah, remember? You're like, no, bro. Like, I forgot about.
I mean, 3 months, but that feels like it's been.
And the crazy thing is you started like 1 or 2-0 in the conference.
We won the first game against Florida State.
Yeah, in overtime.
And then I think we beat Notre Dame.
Yeah, I have to go back and look, but I thought we started 2-0.
I think we were 2-1. I think there was a loss in between.
Okay, maybe 2-1 then in the conference.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was like it didn't look terrible from the beginning.
No.
That quickly went off the rails.
That's putting it.
Especially in last year's ACC.
Yeah. Pretty much Duke and everybody else last year.
Florida State.
Like even Louisville, who went 18-2. Like, I mean, they did kind of get screwed on their seeding, having to play Creighton in the first round as an 8 seed.
So we started 2-2.
They still lost in the first round. Okay,
2-2. Won the first, lost the next 2, won the next one. So you went 2-2 to start, and you only win 3 more the rest of the season.
Yeah, that was tough. Man.
Yeah. All right, cool. Good talk. But no, I mean, I guess you can't talk this. I mean, do you count Wade as part of the season?
Well, not partly
afterwards.
Not part of the season, but part of
it's part of the school year, but it's technically the off season.
Yeah.
Started the story of the year.
I mean, I know we talked about it. And do you guys remember, Leighton and I were talking about this last week, and I'm just kind of curious of your guys' thought. Do you remember where you were when you read the news or heard the news that Kevin Keatts was fired?
Oh, I remember exactly where it was.
Isn't that crazy?
No, because it was during spring break.
Okay.
It was like it was the
Sunday
first
morning.
day. Yeah, because we drove down to Destin, Florida on Saturday, and that was when the Miami game happened. And then we wake up Sunday morning, and I get a text from my dad, and he says Keats is fired this morning. I'm like, what? And then and then I walk outside, and everyone's getting the alerts on their phone, and we're just like going crazy for like 10 minutes.
Yeah. It's like, what? I didn't think it. I didn't. I wasn't totally. I was asleep. Yeah, I woke up. I woke up to my phone blowing up. But yeah, I was sleeping in Sunday morning. Yeah. But I said before it happened, like I didn't think it was gonna happen, but I wouldn't be surprised either.
Sure.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean that's what we call a hedge, Michael. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
But it's just like,
yeah,
he won the ACC the year before, went to the Final Four, so it's like, okay, I mean, maybe give him a year.
I feel like they did give him a year.
I feel like that kind of screwed him as well, because that winning that championship raised the standards.
Well, let's be also like, if he doesn't win, Carson, he's gone. Yeah, I mean,
like even if we had been kind of hovering around 500 in the ACC, right, not made the tournament, but kind of on the outside,
at least made the ACC tournament.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if he gets fired, but the year was so bad. It kind of forced Boo to do something.
Well,
go ahead, in winning the tournament, he got an extra year, and he got the team a trophy. So
yeah,
that's what I'm saying. So it's like I could totally have seen him coming back for one more year.
Yeah. Well, the crazy thing is, and again, it's like one of those, if you had a time machine type deals, right? And he gets fired that year, you don't get Will Wade.
Right.
So like, who do we end up with? And how does this play out over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Like, it's just wild. If that Michael O'Connell shot doesn't go in, most likely Kevin Keats is fired the next day.
Yep.
And then you're only in year one of Will Wade at McNeese State. So who do you potentially get? I don't know.
Probably Ryan Odom.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
He was probably up there. Maybe Justin Gainey.
Maybe. We'll never know, which is the beauty of it.
Yeah.
We don't know who that, what that coaching search would have looked like, but I don't know. Maybe we don't have a quick turnaround depending on how this season rolls out. It's just funny how things work out, But yeah, I mean, I can honestly say I haven't seen this much buzz about NC State basketball probably since like one of Mark Gottfried's years.
That year
Scott Wood.
Yeah. We made the Sweet 16 and we were like top 5 preseason the next year. I remember that. That was probably the most hype.
Yeah.
Tyler Lewis and I think TJ Warren.
Well, when is the last time NC State basketball has gotten more buzz than NC State baseball?
I don't know. I mean, again, I don't know. See, here's the problem. Here's the problem.
Around the Rodon years,
but here's the problem. When does baseball ever really get buzzed, though? Like right. Most people don't really talk about baseball. Like, honestly, we talk about baseball, but there's just not a lot of people covering baseball. So I don't even think when State is really quote unquote good, I don't think they talk about baseball enough.
Yeah.
Now you could say football. I think that would be an easier conversation to have. But anyway.
Yeah, I feel like this is the first time in like 10 years where the fan base generally is more hyped for upcoming basketball than football.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, easily.
For sure.
I mean, we weren't even hyped up about basketball last year after the Final Four run. I mean, we were still talking more about Grayson McCall and a potential dark horse. I almost say black horse, a dark horse of sneaking into the CFP. Like we weren't even really excited because we were talking about was like, okay, is this sustainable? Was this a one-off for Kevin Keats? Like no one gave him the benefit of the doubt that he was quote unquote building on something.
And I think the big issue with that was, all the leaders from that team left, like
Right.
Yeah,
Horn,
right.
Burns, O'Connell was staying, but DR was gone.
Yeah.
Um,
Morsell. Yeah.
Morsell, yeah.
Yeah.
the
So
big-
it wasn't
the
like
big-
you
the big
didn't.
four.
It wasn't like you
Yeah.
were reloading from the last season. You were
Right.
sort of in rebuild mode.
It's like, okay, great, but it's like, it's a whole new team. So
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
see.
All right, women's basketball or wrestling next?
I guess let's just keep going with basketball at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Women's.
Yeah.
So unlike the other sports, I think there was a lot of highlights here.
Yeah.
What's your guys' biggest moment?
The Notre Dame game.
That Notre Dame game. Yeah. By far.
Do you have an honorable mention?
Did we
For me, it would be
say that
go ahead.
the UNC in the ACC tournament was that semifinals?
Yeah, you had that one. For me, I like the comeback against Duke at the Play for K game.
Yeah, that was a good one too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I think Coach Moore reached a milestone this year too, didn't he? I feel like 900 wins.
Yeah.
Did that happen or something or some number?
Something like that did. I remember.
Some Westmore milestone. I feel really bad that I can't remember it off the top of my head. So I think you would definitely add that. I know it's after the season, but you had two of the players go in the first round of WNBA draft.
Which was a product of this season.
Yeah.
Yep. That's definitely
Sanaya's playing pretty good right now.
She is.
Yeah.
Which is shocking. I'm actually surprised she's getting that much of an opportunity. I know there. I get it. She was a first round draft pick, but the way they just do things in the WNBA is just different. If you're the number 9 pick in the NBA draft, you're expected to
perform
significantly, but the WNBA just sees it a little differently.
Like if you make the team,
right?
That close. I just think her athleticism is off the charts and just allows her to, kind of affect the game in so many ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think that's gonna keep her around for a while.
Yeah, it's which is wild because if you asked me like who had the better college career, especially over the last 2 years, I would say Isaiah James was a better college player. And to your point though, Michael, she plays, Sanaya plays both offensive and defensive. She gets in transition. She's very athletic. She's not I hate to say Isaiah is one-dimensional, but it just kind of feels like Isaiah is more one-dimensional.
Yeah, it's a pretty good dimension.
Oh, for sure. A lot of people made a lot of money.
Yeah.
Steph Curry is not really known as a defensive guy whatsoever, but he's made a ton of money shooting the ball. Just as important.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anything else kind of stand out? Definitely
with the Notre Dame game, we became, I think, one of 2 schools, one of like 3 or 4 to host college game day in football, men's basketball, and women's basketball.
That's true. Yeah.
I think, what were the other ones?
Yeah.
I don't even remember. It was like LSU and someone else.
Yeah. I could see LSU. Maybe Texas.
Yeah.
Maybe South Carolina. No, probably not for men. Maybe Texas. I just kind of feeling there's probably definitely some SEC schools.
Yeah.
Maybe a Louisville.
Might be Duke because they hosted in football.
Yeah, that was like last year before last.
Yeah.
Did they for women though? I don't know about women.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But that college game day atmosphere was insane for the Notre Dame game. I got there at like 6:15 a.m. and the student line to get in was already at the Norm Sloan statue.
I'm hoping they already cut the line so they knew who was going to get into the game and who wasn't, or did they end up having to send people away at the door? Do you know?
I have no idea because
Yeah.
I got there really early.
You're smart.
But the line started wrapping around the Tally elevator tower. It was insane.
And that was like what, a 2:00 game, 1:00 game?
It was a noon game.
Oh, was it noon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because college game
Yeah,
day started
yeah.
at 11.
Okay, so it was a noon game. Okay. For some reason, it just felt like it was longer. I guess because it went to like double overtime. It just felt like it started later. Yeah, that was. That's insane, though. Hey, good on the students for that. There's definitely, I think when the moment's big, NC State fans show up. I don't think that can ever be disputed at all.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything else from women's basketball? I'm just trying to kind of
Undefeated in Reynolds.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's good. Yeah. Yeah.
The only team that I've seen in person beat us in Reynolds is Virginia Tech.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been really good at home for the last couple of years. Yeah, I would definitely like to take the maybe I'll do that, just for funsies. Take the last 5 years at home games and see what we're at. Because I that's probably pretty easy if I look at this. Yeah, I can go to the different years. Yeah, I'll do that later. But yeah, I think that's one thing that we do really well is hold serve at home. I think there's definitely a home court advantage for Coach Moore and the women. Wrestling. You want to talk a little wrestling real quick? I think the easy high moment of there was Vince Robinson winning the national championship. I think that was
pretty easy high moment.
Yeah. What do we end up having? 4 All-Americans? I have to go back and look.
Sounds 3 or 4. Yeah. Oof.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of
as a team overall. I forget what did we finish top 10? Did we sneak in there?
Yeah, I think we were 10.
Yeah,
it was definitely. I think it was 10. Might have been 9, but I'm pretty sure it was 10.
Okay, yeah, that's one, and that's like kind of a testament to the program where that's kind of a little bit of a rebuilding year for us.
Yeah.
finishing 9 or 10 in the country with a individual national champion. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, we kind of had a little bad luck at the tournament, but yeah, because I know Trimble. Oh gosh, dang it! It'll come to me when I'm not trying to think about it. Yeah, just I guess kind of the, technically tied for, well, not technically, we were tied for the regular season ACC champion, because you had 3 teams with a loss pointing at each other. And then what did we finish at the ACC, second or third?
Second.
I think it was second. Let me see.
That was a 3-way tie for first.
Yeah, 3-way tie for first in the regular season. It was us, Carolina, and of course us and Virginia Tech put co-champions, and then of course Carolina put champions because that's what they do.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Right. Yeah, I'm just nothing's coming up quickly. Jeez, you would think it would be much easier. Yeah, here it is. Virginia Tech claims it. That's what I thought. Yeah, we finished third. Point out from second. I thought it was third. Pick at second. So yeah, that was a little bit of a different pill to swallow. But again, we had injuries. If Isaac probably is able to wrestle cleanly, we at least get second. Probably aren't going to catch Virginia Tech. That was just kind of their thing to win. But yeah, now we see what happens this year and go from there. It was great because Vince didn't even win the ACC championship. He ended up losing a decision to a kid from Virginia Tech, and for him to come back to win an ACC was just freaking awesome. I think is he a redshirt freshman or a sophomore? That's what I don't remember.
Say redshirt freshman.
Redshirt freshman. Yeah, I thought he was. Yeah, redshirt freshman Robinson became the first freshman to win the national title at 125 since Spencer Lee of Iowa in 2018. So there you go.
Pretty good career then.
Yeah. I mean, that was really his first full year of wrestling, and he wins a national championship, which is pretty amazing. It'll be, see how he follows up, and then we've got a lot of talent coming in and coming back, and so I think we're gonna be really good, and we'll definitely talk about that probably when we get to the fall. I know, especially when Leighton can be on, because he loves his wrestling, and I enjoy it as well. Is that pretty much it for fall? I think that's pretty much it, right?
Gymnastics.
Good solid year. Yeah. Really tough for them. Go ahead.
4-2 in the ACC, which can't really put too much on. I mean, they had to adjust to Cal and Stanford joining the conference, so I think they handled that really well.
Yep, and Clemson's getting better. In fact, they just hired Stanford's coach away, Cal's coach. I think they hired Cal's coach away. So they're putting a lot of resources into their gymnastics. I know we beat Carolina in gymnastics, right? That was one of the 4 wins.
We killed them at home.
Yeah.
It was
and killing them is like what, 1.5
points?
Or something. It's funny the way they score it, but
destroyed you. Wait, it was 1.5? What?
Yeah,
it's pretty funny. Yeah, no. Yeah, kind of bittersweet. I know we're losing a bunch of gymnasts that been really good. Chloe is probably the big one there. The big
ready,
yeah. She's probably
she's like a legend.
Yeah, I mean, if Leighton was here, she's the goat of gymnastics for NC State, which probably is not a lie.
I think that's true.
Yeah. So that's gonna be a tough pill to swallow moving forward. What else we got? Yeah, we'll see what happens. Again, to your point, Carson, adding Stanford and Cal to the rotation, it definitely, Cal and Stanford have been sneaky good for any sport that doesn't make money.
Right. That's what I was saying earlier. It's like
especially Stanford.
Yeah, especially Stanford. Well, hell, when you compete in like 41, 42 varsity events, it's you're bound to be good at a few of them.
Yeah. But like even Stanford has the football history. Like they they could come back and just be really good football again.
I mean, they have arguably 3 of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe even 4, because you have Elway, Luck, and then you had Pluckett, and then I think there was one more.
I mean,
yeah.
If we're talking quarterbacks, Cal's got some quarterback history.
Yeah, Goff and Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers,
yeah, and of course you have Marshawn. But yeah, so those programs are only going to make the other programs better, right? They're going to have to put more effort into it and step up. And by the way, I was on Facebook Marketplace the other day, and I saw the most interesting thing up for sale. It was the gymnastics flooring, the carpeting flooring. Anybody want to guess how much that's going for on Facebook Marketplace?
From Reynolds?
Yeah, it's the NC State version of it. Yeah.
I don't know.
Take whatever number you think and double it.
Piece of the flooring?
No, it's the whole damn thing.
The whole floor?
Yeah.
Oh,
whatever number it is, double it.
20,000.
No, 9,000. So you were actually
okay.
Right
I was gonna say 10,000.
Were you gonna say 10,000? Yeah, $9,000. Sorry, I didn't think you would go that high. I thought you'd be like $4,000.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it's pretty massive, though. I mean,
yeah,
it was funny. I was, it was like the weirdest thing. It was the flooring, and then they had pictures of Reynolds. So I'm assuming it's the one from Reynolds. Anyway, sorry, I took us off on a tangent, but I just thought it was kind of fun and different.
Gymnastics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go for
Let's
it.
talk about tennis and then wrap it up with baseball and softball.
Yeah.
Men's
Men's
team
tennis?
had a fantastic season.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah. Well, they were
Better
both in the
than
top
the
10, top 5 at one point.
Top 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
The
far
fact,
did they make it? Sweet 16?
Sweet 16. Yeah. Sweet 16. And it was close.
Yeah.
I think they lost 4-3 or 4-2. No, it was
Yeah.
4-2. I think they lost 4-2.
They lost. It was definitely a close game. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I think it was 4-2, but the matches were really close. Yeah, you're right, because they were 2 and Wake Forest was 1, right? That was kind of like the highlight of the season over at the Tennis Center.
At ACCs, yeah.
Yeah.
Was it at ACCs? That was
No,
just regular season.
It was regular season at home.
Regular season.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good season. Yeah, they kind of tailed off at the end, but super really good season. Probably one of their best in the last probably 7 to 10 years, I would guess. And then women's tennis was solid all year.
Top 5 doubles duo.
Yeah,
in Zampardo and Broadfoot.
Yep. And will they be back? Are they both back this year?
I think so. I want to say they're both.
Zampardo is a definite.
Yeah.
Well, we'll find out pretty fast once the year gets going.
Both of them are sophomores.
Okay.
Yeah,
so they can both be back then, depending on if they turn pro or whatever their short-term goals are. Well, that's good. That'll be building on. Yeah, and then is this the year we're bringing in that really high blue chip prospect from Florida? I feel like
for women's tennis.
Yeah, I feel like this was the year. I don't know. Maybe that was last year. I know we had a really high recruit coming in. Let me just see. NCAA.
Then the women's team, did they make it to the Sweet 16 as well?
Either second round or Sweet 16.
Yeah, I think they were done in the second round.
Okay. So this is probably the first year in a while the men's team made it farther than the women's team. Because the women's team has been really, really good for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, now it's not coming up quickly, but I could have swore we were. Hold on, here we go. Tennis rankings. Wow.
To this day, I still hate that doubles only counts as 1 point in tennis.
Why do you feel that way? Because 2 people are playing?
No, because like the three doubles games that are played, it's only worth 1 point if you win the best.
Oh, gotcha. Instead of winning into each individual one. Yeah, I got you.
So,
that makes sense.
So if you win 2 out of 3 in doubles, you only have to win 2 singles. So there's more reward with that.
Right. Yeah, I mean you're right. Instead of counting 3 matches as 1 point, they should be individual, and then you play the best out of. Well, then that makes it best out of 10. So then you could have a tie, I guess, technically.
No, right? It would make it best out of 9.
Is that best out of 9? I told you math's hard, dude. Okay, because you play 6 singles.
Yeah. There's 6
7 points. 7 points. That makes sense. Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, you're playing them, right? You might as well count them.
Mm-hmm. Right. You're playing multiple matches. You're not just playing one doubles matches, right? Right. Doubles matches.
I mean, if they're going to play doubles first, they might as well just put more point emphasis on that.
Yeah. That's fair, because you only play 1 set in doubles, right?
Yeah.
And then you play best of 3.
I think doubles is the 8, and then singles is the 6.
Yeah, but you play multiple sets.
Yeah, you play multiple sets of singles.
Yeah. So you're still putting more emphasis on it because that's 6 matches, up to 6 matches. Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious as to why that is. I'd like to maybe speak to someone that does tennis for a living and say like why don't they put as much of an emphasis on the doubles point?
Well, it's different in high school. In high school, it's 1 point for each game in doubles.
Interesting.
So you do get the advantage.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's take it up with our congressman. Yeah, I think again at the end of the day, really good seasons for both teams. Lots to build on. Coach Urshon for the women he's a stud. He's been there.
Yeah.
He's built a hell of a program at this point. Very, very consistent program. He does a really nice job of mixing in both Americans and foreign players, and so yeah, especially from Britain, from where he's from. Like he it seems like he's always bringing in one or
Good
two English women.
yeah.
Yeah, really good connections over there. All right. Well, softball or baseball?
I guess we can start with softball. Obviously, not the season that we hoped for. We didn't see. I guess a few of us were kind of expecting the team to sort of take a bigger leap in second year of Coach Leftwich, but
yeah.
I mean, when you look at the schedule though, and considered what this team had to go through,
yeah.
I mean, I'm impressed that they finished around 500.
Yeah.
With the fact that they played pretty much Clemson, Duke, Florida State, and Virginia Tech pretty much in
that's
4 back-to-back weekends. Those are the 4 best teams in the ACC.
Yeah, that's what they call a gauntlet. And you won a couple games there. You beat Duke. You could have beat Duke in the series, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You probably would have liked to have had that one. I feel like we won one against Clemson this year, and what was that last year?
Yeah. No, that was.
Yeah, we did win one against Clemson.
Yeah, and then I think the other one was like extra innings, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think that it wasn't the Clemson like the first series.
Florida State was.
Okay.
I think Florida State was away, and then we came back home against Clemson.
Actually, Georgia Tech was the first series.
Well, out of that gauntlet.
Got you. Sorry. Yeah, got you. Sorry, my apologies.
We played good against Georgia Tech and Boston College, and I think we played Notre Dame as well.
Yeah. Well, we took the Notre Dame series.
Okay.
In fact, we won 2 out of 3. And then we took 2 out of 3 against Boston College. So we won 2 ACC series back to back. And then, you lost the series against Florida State, but you lost one of them in extra innings. Like you got swept, but wasn't horrible. I mean, you lost 6-1, which but then you lost 5-4 and 7-4. And then again, you played Virginia Tech. Other than the last game, pretty close. You lost. Well, actually, no, I lied. I read the numbers wrong. Yeah, no, we got blown up by Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
And then, no, we lost all 3 this year to Clemson, but we did lose one of them by 1 run. And then Carolina is the one that stings too. Like you had a chance to win that series. That one hurt. And then the Duke series again, you had a chance to win that series. You end up the score looks lopsided in the game 3 against Duke, but it was an 8 innings, so you took them to extras and just kind of fell apart a little bit.
It was, and I was at that game. It was sort of like one of those comebacks where I think we were down like 2-7, somewhere around there.
Yeah,
and then we tied it in the 7th or 6th or 7th, and then it went to extra innings, and Duke just woke up and went to work, and then we couldn't respond.
Yeah, so you went 6-18. To your point, you probably want to 14-12. You had a winning record at home, which is nice. So that's a good start. You were over 500 on neutral field, so again, you're just looking for those positives, right, to build on. And I think if you win 2, at least I think if you won 2 different games, I think you would have made the ACC tournament. I think, granted, it was still with a losing record, but again, it's just, getting that experience, making an ACC tournament, just taking the next step. It doesn't have to be, one large step for mankind type, thing. It just needs to be like, hey, let's continue to show progress in the process. But I did talk to Coach Leftwich during the ACC baseball tournament, and kind of just talked to her about the transfers and transfer portal, and she's like, she wasn't mad. I guess I don't want to. That was kind of a private conversation, so I don't really want to share what she said. But she understood it's part of the process, and it's part of what she's got to do. Yeah, and it's part of what she has to do to get her team better too. So, yeah, I think again, I still trust it. I still trust the process. She's got a nice recruiting class, got some top recruits
really
coming
good
in this year.
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
Like this is our first real full recruiting class, and it's looking good. So
yeah.
hopefully.
The question then becomes, how much time does she really get? And I'm hoping,
Right.
it's all relative. Obviously, the name of the game is winning, and doing things the right way. But I'm still hoping she gets a couple more years to keep, building this thing, and hopefully the administration is patient and lets her do her thing, because I love her as a person. She's so nice to talk to. She's very cordial. You can just like even not having the season that she wanted to have, and when we were talking, she was just upbeat and excited about what's to come. And so, like, it's not like one of those, oh my goodness, like the sky is falling. Like she exudes confidence, and I think that's what you really want in a coach. And and she can build relationships, again, like we were just saying with her recruiting class coming in. I think it's just a matter of time before she can get this thing turned around.
Yeah. We got some key players returning from last year as well. Hannah Church, big one. Kendall Simmers, big one. And then Taryn Massey made some noise as a freshman.
Yeah, there was really only I didn't get into the specifics with her about the players that transferred. I think she really like there was one name that you were kind of surprised about, and she went to Carolina. Well, we had two to go to Carolina, but there was one that you were more surprised about. And then one of the freshmen that left, I was a little surprised. But it wasn't too much meat off the bone. What was that, Michael?
Yeah, I mean
it's just the way we live in this world of college athletics. The beauty is the porteth giveth and the portal taketh.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and that's the hard part, because once your season ends, you see everybody leave the team, and it takes time to kind of backfill those spots. So it is a little bit of what's going on, but it's like you got to just give it a little bit of time, and like you said, if somebody leaves, that also means you can upgrade.
Either internally
possible,
or externally. Yeah. I just think to the point that you're making, it's the sky is falling until it's not falling, right? So as soon as you start seeing the return on the portal, you're like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I think we did better with people coming in than leaving, or even vice versa. It's like, well, dang, we lost more than we brought in, or that's when you panic. I mean, I here's the thing, and we don't really look at it this way from a sports perspective, but it's like this in the real world. The program existed before you got there. It's going to exist when you leave.
Right.
It's just, it's just a time thing. And you're not as important as you think you are. Everyone can be replaced.
Yep.
So now, whether it's an upgrade or not, only time tells, but everyone can be replaced. All right. Baseball been very good to me.
Mm-hmm.
The best for last.
I mean, if you ask me.
I think you can pretty easy high this year.
Clemson.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's a little bit too early of the high, but
yeah, I picked a little early, maybe.
Yeah.
I think if you had to pick two lows, I'm not even gonna. I feel like there's some candidates here. You could go the Jacksonville series. You can go the Stanford series.
I think
you can go the ACC tournament. That was a little bit of a low, even though I know we were the higher ranked team. But it's like we talked about it. It's hard to beat a team 4 times in a year, but you had opportunities to win that game.
Yeah. That also they changed the format where it's single elimination, so it's one game. I mean that can work in your advantage, and it can where you get one shot at it, which is not how the rest of the season goes. So
no,
which I like. I mean, I like it, but it's also
I like the new format. To be honest with you, you're not wasting a game just to play a game. Like that's just dumb. That's a waste of that's a waste of my money to go to a game, and it's a waste of arms. Make every game count.
Yeah, I think just looking that Stanford series is definitely
Yeah,
because
Yeah.
you had the ACC regular season title on the line.
Well, hell, even
Jack's-
if you only win 2 out of 3, you still had it.
Right.
At the opportunity. When you thought losing that Friday night game, you're like, well, there it went, and then everything lined up again for you again on Saturday, and then to just kind of fall apart. Yeah, that was rough. I'm not even like disappointed in the low, like as far as the regionals.
Yeah, I think
No.
I don't know. You made it would have been tough to go out like losing the first 2 games, but
Yeah.
you battled back after that first loss, got to the regional final, and then Auburn. It's in their park. They're number 4 overall seed.
It didn't matter to Coastal Carolina, did it?
No.
Coastal, man, that's the hottest team in the country. They got disrespected, man. Like that seed is disrespectful looking at it now. But
3 straight wins.
Yeah, it's insane. That's really good for baseball, as crazy as baseball can be. But
wait, did Murray State end up beating Duke?
They were.
It's 5-4 right now, bottom of the 8th. They're up.
Murray State's up.
I got it all again. Murray State's up. They need 4 more outs.
Panthers up 4-1 on Oilers.
So just looking at baseball, the brackets, right? And I don't want to spend a whole lot of time because I know we're talking about NC State here, but I mean, look, if State wins and gets a home regional, who knows how this thing plays out for NC State based off of how these brackets have gone. Yeah. I mean, it's been a weird tournament. It's been probably one of the weirdest, I
mean, we probably would have been like a 15 or 16, so probably was in the Super.
We could have been, just depends, because freaking UCLA is like 15 and they're hosting super regionals.
Yeah.
So that's just the thing. Like we talked about, like bracket luck. It's a thing in baseball too. I mean,
I think it's much more so in baseball.
I agree.
Because for the regionals, it's not grouped by strictly seeding. Like they just it's regionally, like
very much so,
obviously. So like you could get underseeded or overseeded just because they don't want to make you travel that far.
Yep.
So
they're like, okay, West Virginia, we're gonna put you in Raleigh. James Madison, we're gonna put you in Raleigh.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they don't snake it like women's basketball and men's basketball. They don't snake the rankings and do it that way. And I mean, you'll get an oddball. Like it doesn't really get weird until super regionals. But the regionals are pretty regional. I mean, it's not just a clever name they gave it. Like there's a reason they call it regionals.
Yep.
So who knows if again, if you go win that Stanford series, maybe we're at a super regional this weekend. Not to say that it would have, but it could have looked vastly different than it did. Because then most likely you would have had an SEC team coming to Raleigh, because that's just the way you can pretty much count that you're going to play an SEC team in regionals every year from here on out, just because if they continue to give as many teams access to the tournament, right? Like if the SEC puts in 13 teams every year, you're going to pretty much play an SEC team in the regionals. It's because there's only 16 regionals, and so there's only 3 regionals that won't have an SEC team, because you can't put double conference teams in the same region.
This year you probably would have had like a Kentucky or Mississippi State.
Right. So we talked about it last year, or last week. Just real quick before we end the show, Leighton and I kind of gave our remarks. Successful, not successful season for baseball. Go ahead, Carson. I'll let you go first.
Well, at one point, you failed to reach Omaha, which then fails to reach what you did in the previous season. And so I think from that aspect, it is a failure. But, when you consider all the guys that left the team, specifically at fielding and batting, guys like Serrano and Kozar, considering that this is a very young team.
Sure.
definitely a lot of highlights, and you had opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
You presented yourself with opportunities to win, even if you didn't capitalize. And so,
Yeah.
I think from that aspect, win.
Yeah.
Michael, same thing for you.
Yeah. Yes and no. I think it's because you kind of adjust your expectations as the season goes along. So after that Clemson series,
Right.
you felt you had a really good chance at winning the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the kind of a disappointment there. I don't know if I'd call it I wouldn't call it a failure because you couldn't actually win it because you have to win enough to get there.
Yeah.
It just feels like they left something on the table this year. But
Yeah.
overall, and I think I tweeted this out when I looking back at kind of Avon's tenure here and his other Omaha appearances, it was always kind of building up to that one big year, like in 2013. And then next year, all those guys leave. You missed the tournament completely in 2014.
Yeah.
Kind of the same thing in 2021. And then next year, all those guys leave, and you miss the tournament in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
This year, you still lost. You lost Amac, Cozart, Bennington, Serrano, like
a lot of offense.
2/3 of your weekend starters as well.
Yeah.
And this year, you put yourself in position to win the ACC regular season and then make a regional final, ultimately not accomplishing either, but you still put yourself there. So I think that's kind of if you're looking at it that way, I think you've raised kind of the level of the program where
more is expected.
And you don't have to have a full rebuild a couple of years to try and make it back to Omaha. Like it's still, it's there every year now.
Yeah, even with all of the stuff that quote unquote we've lost to the portal, and we'll spend like maybe 2 more minutes and then wrap, but because it kind of ties to the season as a whole. I had already did some mental gymnastics and mental exercises with the roster, and I came to number 22. That I figured that's what we were gonna turn over, and that's portal, that's graduation, and draft. So those 3 categories, and right now we're sitting at 16.
Yeah,
and we still have the draft to go. I don't know if we get to 22.
Probably see a couple go drafted, and maybe a couple more enter the portal.
Yeah, maybe. I think maybe 1 or 2 more portals. I think we're pretty much done. There's really only 2 names that I'm looking at that one of those names may not even be until like the fall or something like that. Like it could be like a later, in the next cycle for the portal. I could see 1 more maybe happening now, but I feel like if we're going to have any more, it's going to be after this window closes and it's the next window before the spring.
Yeah.
And because we'll know who's going to be committed, what's the incoming portal looks like, and all of that stuff. And so I still think when it's all said and done, it's the last 2 years to back up for a second, the last 2 years we've had 20 come in and 20 leave the last 2 years in a row. I think that's an easy number to get to. But then next year is going to look differently with the roster limits and, how is state going to handle, the scholarships for the players. We'll see. All right. Last question that I had for you guys. Overall success of the athletic program during the academic year of 24-25. Success or not success?
I think it's definitely a down year for us, at least based off the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah,
I don't think we had an actual single ACC championship
as a team.
As a team championship. Yeah,
I think that's a good point.
We competed for a few, but I don't think we actually won one this year. When the last couple of years, it was you count on 2 or 3, whether that was swimming and diving or wrestling or
women's cross
basketball.
Country, women's basketball, men's basketball even won one. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
baseball is usually kind of competing, hasn't won one, but they're right in the conversation.
But even baseball was close to a regular season title. I think some of that has to do with Stanford and Cal and SMU. I mean, that's more teams that are more competitive at those sports. I think swimming, diving, especially. I think I was looking at the standings and we were behind all of them this year.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point that you bring up because there's so many teams that compete for quote unquote national championships. It's much easier to win a conference championship because there's 1 in 16, 1 in 17, depending on the sport that you're dealing with. Is it 17 now? 18? What's it? I don't even know.
18 if you include Notre Dame.
Okay, 18. Okay, yeah. So 17 for football, 18 for every other, pretty much every other sport. Yeah, but that's still, it's to the point. It's not as easy because you've added 3 more teams, and that just adds more layers to try to compete. But yeah, I think you're right, Michael. I think you have to base it off of ACC championships. When you're winning 2 or 3 a year, it feels like a successful year, and when you win none, it's all about the hardware.
Right.
What do you think, Carson?
Yeah, going off of what Michael said, no ACC championships, and pretty much, I feel like every program, even I feel like women's basketball sort of turned downward in a sort of downward spiral. Women's basketball, they go from a Final Four to a Sweet 16 appearance, which is still pretty good, but it's not as good as it was previously.
Especially when you had a lead in the last 5 minutes of that game. You need to close that game out. Again, don't want to bring up old memories, but to your point, that's like you had opportunities, and I think that's the most frustrating thing. And I'm sure you ask any of the players or coaches, and you're like, that's a game we need to close out. Yeah. Well, I think that's an official wrap of the season, guys.
Yeah.
I think we have less than 80 days. Yeah, another year. A lot more gray hairs. Probably need to get the defibrillator checked for the house because I feel like every year it takes a few more years off my life being a State fan.
What'd you say? 80 days?
Yeah, I think it's just
like
under
87.
87. Yeah, it's in the 80s.
2 months, yeah. Man, that's August is gonna come quick.
Yeah, I know. Already, we just worked out the menu for the first tailgate, so that's good. That's what we got, man. That's all we got in our lives right now. So there's some things going on this weekend. There's the Will Wade welcome dinner for the NIL. That's going on Saturday. I don't know if there's any tickets left for that, but that's a meet and greet with Will Wade.
There's a few left. I saw a post about it. So yeah.
And then a week from tomorrow is the NIL football event. So a couple more athletic events going on before the end of the year, or before we're officially done with it. But yeah. All right. Who wants to close us? You want to close us, Carson?
Yeah. Thanks everyone for watching. As a reminder, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and tune in next week. And as always, go Pack.
Go Pack.